More insight about the White House's plans for Venezuelan oil. The Wall Street Journal reporting there is a plan in the works to take control for years to come to meet President Trump's goal of $50 per barrel. Caroline Levitt telling reporters the oil is already on the market.
The United States government has already begun marketing Venezuelan crude oil in the global marketplace for the benefit of the United States, engaged the world's leading commodity marketers, key banks to execute and provide financial support for these crude oil and crude product sales. And those funds will be dispersed for the benefit of the American people and the Venezuelan people at the discretion of the United States government.
All right, so let's bring in the U.S. Energy Secretary. Chris Wright is here. Mr. Secretary, welcome to you. What a day to have you. So how do you describe this? Is this a takeover of Venezuelan oil by the United States?
No, definitely not. What this is Trump being Trump. We've had 25 years of a collapsing Venezuela that's taken an increasing toll on America and Americans. And he isn't going to just accept that, so he innovated. This is using the threat of military force, but not the use of military force, to prevent the export of Venezuelan crude that's been under sanction. This should have been going on for years. There were sanctions on Venezuela, but people just ignored them, and that oil flowed out. This is the president leaning in, saying, we're going to stop your exporting of oil. And then, of course, they get on the phone. And what do they want? They want to sell their oil. We want them to reform. We want them to stop the criminality, stop the threat to American citizens, stop the importation of drugs into our country, the kidnapping of Americans, and all the other toll that's been wrought by this just destructive collapse in Venezuela. President Trump said, all right, we're going to make a deal. And we made a deal. Their oil, as it comes out, we're going to let it come out. We, as the United States government, are going to market that crude. We're going to get much better prices and much surer and faster payment than they would get. We're going to put that money in an account, and we're going to control the flow of the funds from that account.
Who controls the account?
The United States government. The United States government.
So just to go back to my original question, this isn't a criticism, just a question for clarity. Is this a takeover of Venezuelan oil? Will the Venezuelan people benefit from the sale of this oil?
Oh, absolutely. This money that's in this account controlled by the U.S. goes back to Venezuela. And in some ways, it's going to bring them money faster and quicker, much faster and quicker than they otherwise would have gotten this money. But it's just allowing us some leverage to say, you got to stop the drug dealing. You got to stop this. You got to stop that. Believe me, we have the interim authorities in Venezuela. They'd like to see improved living conditions in Venezuela as well. This is going to be a win for the United States and a win for Venezuela. But this is not stealing of their oil. We're marketing their oil at a better price than they can market the oil, and we're bringing those funds back to Venezuela, but just at our discretion, so we can use it as leverage to get better behavior.
All right, so Mr. Secretary, it's John here. Good to have you on the program again. Just a couple of logistical points here. How long do you think it will take to get Venezuelan oil production up from the current 1 million barrels a day to at least 3.8 million, which is where it was at its peak? And you have also targeted oil at $50 a barrel. The break-even point, the industry says, is $60 a barrel. So how do those things work together?
Well, look, with President Trump's leadership and the reforms we've done, we continually drive down the break-even price of oil in the United States of America. So, yes, oil prices are low historically, which is a great benefit to American consumers, but American oil and gas companies continue to innovate to drive down their break-even costs so they can be profitable at lower and lower prices. But the markets are going to dictate the price of oil. But with certainty, I can say with President Trump leadership that average market price is going to be well below where it was and where it would have been with President Biden or President Harris. The break-even cost, I don't know what that $60 you're quoting is. It's all different in different fields and different places. Right. In Venezuela, it's way below that. And so I think you will see a plateauing of Venezuelan production, and you could pretty rapidly see growth in oil production in Venezuela. Again, hugely to the benefit of Venezuelan citizens and hugely to the benefit of Americans, both through lower oil prices because of increased supply, but also because of reduced criminality, reduced drug running, reduced gun running, reduced harboring of terrorists, reduced kidnapping of American citizens that Venezuela's been doing for years.
You know,
just in terms of that figure, I mean, that's the widely quoted figure among U.S. oil industry for break even here in the United States. And as you point out, oil prices are global. Just the first part of the question was, how long do you expect it will take to get Venezuelan oil production up from where it is now to at least where it was in the peak?
Well, look, the peak was many decades ago, so that would take many years to get there. But the key thing is today it's 800,000 or 900,000 barrels a day. When's it going to be at 1.2 million? That could be just several months from now. It could be up 50% in the first 12 or 18 months of this. 50% increase in their production. That's a better supplied world market. And of course, sold at a better price. That's probably a nearly doubling of the revenues from oil sales available for the betterment of Venezuela. So this is potentially, we want this society to succeed, become a successful, peaceful, capitalist ally of the United States and the Western Hemisphere. Not only do all the Venezuelans win hugely from that, but that's a huge win for our country, a huge win for the Western Hemisphere, and it's a great message to the rest of the world that if there's sanctions, this president's actually going to enforce them. We're trying to drive better behavior, but you only can do that if you're credible.
Okay, so I'm just trying to picture. So right now, we know Venezuela is sitting on a lot of oil. We know that they have tapped into a mere tiny fraction of what they could be producing for the globe. It's about 1 million barrels a day. What are you talking about ramping it up to?
Well, today it's maybe more like 800,000 barrels a day. I think, as I said, I think a year from now, it could be 50% higher. It could be 1.2 million barrels a day. Ultimately, yeah, of course, it could be 4, 5, 6 million barrels a day. But, that's a decade or so out. But if you have a fair government, if you have a representative government, a peaceful rule of law society, absolutely, Venezuelan production could grow massively. And I believe will.
One last question to you, Mr. Secretary, if we could, and that is, what's the global impact of what America is doing in Venezuela regarding oil? Because Venezuela's biggest customer for exported oil was China. Are you going to cut off China? Will you still allow Venezuela to export to China? And if you do cut off China, how do you expect they're going to react?
No, we're not going to cut off China. The illicit trade in oil with Iran and Russia, the illegal gun running stuff, that's going to be cut off and stopped. China is a giant commercial economy. And no, China is going to continue to buy Venezuelan oil just like the rest of the world will as well.
Okay, just one last thing before you go. I'm looking at AAA's reporting gas is at $2.81 a gallon. And kudos to the administration. You've brought those prices down. How much lower do you believe that you can get them with all this talk about producing more oil? I mean, are we looking at that possibility that President Trump has put out there, $2 a gallon?
Look, President Trump's a very ambitious guy. That's how he got where he is right now. But there are plenty of gas stations across the United States that are already selling gas at $1.99. Getting the national average to $2, that's we haven't seen that for decades. So that's probably tough to do. But I think you'll see more downward pressure on the price of gasoline. Part of this is just due to regulatory reform and sweeping out a lot of the nonsense. Where you see high gasoline prices in the United States, it's a lot of state government policies, state taxes, state mandates. Blue states have much higher gasoline prices than red states. Same thing for electricity prices. Bad decisions are what drive expensive energy. Good decisions drive energy prices down.
One more really super quick thing while we have you. What are the conditions that these energy companies are asking for to do business in Venezuela?
They want to believe the rule of law is going to be respected and that these investments will make sense for them. But I'll tell you, there's enormous interest. There's going to be a lot of people dipping their toes in. Yeah, we'll go in and help fix that field. We'll get this thing revitalized, where they don't have to make long-term commitments. But if we can get Venezuela to a better, more stable government and reasonable business regulations and commercial terms, you'll see huge amounts of money, capital flow into Venezuela. Okay. So it's more a continuum than a yes or no thing. Right. But you'll see a lot of American companies within Venezuela in the next 12 months.
All right, a lot to consider in the days and weeks ahead. Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Mr. Secretary.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.